Hello there, seventh graders. Mrs. Oliver here with today's lesson. Today is word problems with one-step equations. As always, we need to see when in the world are you going to use equations in your life? Well, you kind of already do whenever you're solving word problems. Okay, so an example it would be like the scientist drills into the earth descending 6 feet every hour. They give you the rest of the information that you would need to write an equation and then you can solve it. Okay, what we've already learned is to solve one-step equations with rational numbers. That was what we did last week on either Wednesday or Thursday. And then we're going to use those when we get to two-step equations as well. Okay, so we're still working on Unit 3, which is Chapter 6 in our textbook, Volume 2. This is our sixth set of notes. You are staying organized because that is one of the ways to be successful with being able to do these. All right, so we had 2 pages of notes last time, but this time we only have 1 page of notes. Okay. I'm sure you've heard this before, using the cubes strategy to solve your word problems. This is where we circle the important numbers. We underline what question are they actually asking us, box in our keywords that tell us which operations we're going to use, eliminate any information we don't need or evaluate, and then of course solve and check our answer. Okay, and that's where we've been really pushing for you guys to do this checking by plugging in your solution for the variable. Okay, so we have some examples that we are going to do using cubes. So let's get started with number 1. In a presidential election, Ohio had 20 electoral votes. This is 14 votes less than Texas. How many electoral votes did Texas have? Let V equal the number of votes Texas had. Okay, so here they kind of gave us a little bit of information for us. All right, so let's circle our numbers, our 20 and our 14. Those are 2 important numbers. What is the question? What do they want us to know? Well, how many electoral votes did Texas have? Then we're going to box in keywords. Okay, our keywords for this one is less than. That's going to help us know which of the 1 operations are we using in this one-step equation. Is there anything that we need to eliminate that's not important? Note, this time they did not give us extra information. So we need to know now, how would we write our equation? Okay, so what we want to start with is, what operation are we working with? Well, less than means to subtract. I know I have some type of subtraction. Well, we had a total of our 20 electoral votes in Ohio. So that's what we need to equal. Well, what equals this 20? 14 votes less than Texas. Okay, well, we don't know how many votes Texas got, so that's where this V variable comes into play. And we're going to take 14 away from that, and that should equal our 20. Okay, so that's something where you're going to have to make sure you're, 1, looking at the information they gave us and then writing the correct equation to it. Then, as always, we need to solve our problem. Okay, so what I want to do is the opposite of my subtraction. What's my inverse of subtraction? Well, the inverse is addition. So that means I want to add 14 to both sides. Why do I want to add 14 to both sides? Because remember, we're trying to isolate our variable v by itself. So then I only have v on the left side, and then what's 20 plus 14? Are 34 votes. But then this is where some of you get lazy and you're not going to actually check your work. To check your work, all you're doing is replacing your variable with your solution. Okay, so instead of my b, I'm putting 34 minus 14, and does that equal 20? Okay, well, if I did this vertically and I took my 34 minus 14, I do get 20. You can't always just assume you did it correct the first time and that your answer is always going to be correct. We're humans, we make mistakes. We need to check our solutions so that we know that we are indeed correct, because if not, we have a chance to then go back and fix it and learn from that mistake. Okay, let's go on to our next example. Okay, suppose you have $38. All right, well, that's a money amount, so let's circle that. How much more do you need to save to buy a small television that costs $65? All right, so that was circling our numbers, underlining. What's the question? Well, we need to know how much more for the small television. That tells us what's our variable. How much money do we need to save? Okay. B, let's box in. We have, so that's our equal sign. And we know something costs $65. Right? The fact that it also says more tells us that this is an addition problem. Is there extra information? Nope. So we can write our equation. We know we have $38. We're trying to get to $65. Okay, so we need to add more money to our bank account. Right? Makes sense. Okay, so we're going to take our $38 plus however much more we need, and that's going to equal 65. We need to solve this. Okay, we could do it the horizontal way, or we could do this vertical. The opposite of having my $38 is losing $38. Okay, the whole reasoning, because then I want these to cross out. Then I'm only left with my M on the left side. And then I need to do some subtraction here, but we have to regroup with that subtraction. Okay, 15 minus 8 makes 7, and 5 minus 3 makes 2. So we're saying we need $27 more. But of course, I'm going to check this. Okay, I want to know, is 38 plus 27 really equal to $64? Well, 7 and 8 is 15. 3, 4, 5, 6. Correct. Okay, so we came up with our equation, we solved the equation, and we checked our work. Okay, make sure that you're understanding how we're getting our variable, because part of your homework, you're going to have to come up with what your variable represents on your own. All right, so let's look at our next one. The width of a computer monitor is 1 in 25 hundredths times its height. Find the height of the computer whose width is 15 inches. Okay, so that's numbers that they gave us. So let's underline what is the question. Find the height. Okay, that's what it wants us to do. So that's how we know what our variable represents. All right, let's look at important information. The width of the computer is times. So that means we're multiplying. Okay, so we need to find the height if we know what the width is. Okay, so that's where we know that this is, the word is a really big keyword. So let's write our equation. We know we're doing multiplication of 1 in 25 hundredths times our height. This is 15 inches. Okay. So once we have that copied, we know we're going to come over. I see that it's a multiplication problem. inverse of multiplication? Our division. So we're going to come in here. We're going to divide. All because I want to get h by itself. And 1 in 2500ths over 1 in 2500ths is 1. And h times 1 is h. So that's how we know that's by itself. Then we're going to have to do some division off to the side. Okay, remember, we can't really divide by 1 in 2500ths. We have to turn that one into a or into a whole number, and I have to add 2 more zeros. Okay, well, 125 goes into 150 one time. And that can go in there twice. So I know I'm good. So h should be our 12 inches. Okay. Notice I still showed my work of how to solve this with decimals. I just had to do it over off to the side. Okay. So it's chapter answer. Is 1 in 2500ths times 12 going to equal 15? Well, when I multiply by decimals, I always put the larger digits on top. That means I'm multiplying by less numbers technically, and to put in my lines for addition. 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, 2 times 1 is 2. Go to our second line, add your zeros, because now we're multiplying in different place values. And anything times 1 is that number. Well, that makes it easy. And then add them up. Well, my place value is 1, 2. 1, 2 is 15. We know 15 is equal to 15. All right. Make sure you have that copied down. We only have 2 more examples. Okay. A shark can swim an average speed of 25 miles per hour. At this rate, how far can the shark swim at 2.2 hours? So those are important information. Okay, important numbers we need. All right, so what are they asking us? How far? So we want D to be the distance the shark swims. Now, if you notice, they even gave us, they gave us the equation here. All we need to do is figure out what is R and what is T, since we know we're trying to find the distance since it told us how far. Okay? Well, what's the key word that tells us that we are dividing? Okay? Well, whenever you have a rate problem that they're giving us, is going to be your division. Okay? They're telling us how far they can swim at what average speed. And average also means that you're going to be dividing, multiplying, then dividing. Okay? So my equation, R, well, anything per hour is my rate. And how long did they tell us that we're going to travel? Our 2 4/10. So our rate is, we said 25. We don't know D, but we need to find out how far we can go in our 2 4/10 of an hour. Okay? Well, remember that is a division problem. And what is the inverse of division? Well, the inverse of division is multiplication. So technically, we are multiplying by the reciprocal because there's technically a 1 with that D. So it's still the same thing. And then we'll multiply this side by my same thing as well. These cross cancel, cross reduce. No longer there. That's how we can get to our solution. And then I need to multiply. right, so 25 times 24. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. All right, before I start multiplying by my 2, put my 0. 2 times 2 is 10. 4, 5, and then I need to add it. So is this really going to be 600? Well, nope. We got to go 1, 2. So we get that 6 is D. Well, what does that mean? Distance. Is that miles, kilometers? What did they ask? It is 6 miles. Of course, we got to check our work. Okay. We want to know if 25 is equal to 6 divided by 2 4/10. I'll make a log to my side. I'm going to turn this into 24 and my 6 into 60 because I moved my place value. Okay. Making sure I do places correctly. Okay. So then 24 going into 60. Well, 24 could go into this 2 times. Okay. And that makes 48. Let's copy it down. Oh, you know what? I put my place value in the wrong spot. This is why we check our work. I took my 25 and gave it a decimal point. That was a no-no. So my answer really is 60. See, this is why it is important to check your work. There's little tiny mistakes that can happen when you don't rewrite something correctly. All right, there we go. So I really want to see if 2 4/10 go into 60 25 times. All right. That's where I'm like looking, I'm like, I'm making a mistake somewhere. Where is this mistake coming from? All right, and then yes, 5 times 24 is 220. Yeah, keep this mistake. Okay. All right. Hopefully you learned from my mistake as I did as well. Trying to figure out where did you write today? Woo! All right, our last one. After Alana hiked 2 5/8 miles along a hiking trail, she realized she was only 3/4 of the way to the end of the trail. How long was the trail? Well, we circled our information. Okay. M. So what is it we're looking for? M is how long is the trail? So we say let M equal the length of the trail. Or how many miles? Is that what it is? We're using miles. Let's do that. How long for the hiking trail? We don't know how many miles. Okay. So what's our equation? Well, we gotta find out what operation we're doing. And one of the key words that she tells me here in this word problem is of. Of is known for multiplication. There's no little extra added stuff that we need to get rid of. So I'm going to have that my equation is 2 5/8 is equal to, because that's how far it is. So we're trying to find out how many miles for a hiking trail that is left in her trail. And she's only 3/4 of the way. How many more miles does she have left? Okay. So then we're going to solve this over off to the side. 2 5/8 times or not times, my bad, I wrote it backwards. 3/4 m. I want to get rid of that 3/4, but I know I'm going to have to multiply by the reciprocal. That means I'm going to have to turn this one here into an improper fraction. Okay, 2 times 18, or times 8 is 16, plus 5 is 21/8 equals, and then a 3/4 m, giving it some space and saying I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply, well, if I took 3/4, the reciprocal of that is 4/3. Whole reason, 4 over 4 makes 1, and 3 over 3 makes 1. But what about our other side? Is there anything I can cancel out? Remember talking about cross canceling? Well, I know 3 can go into 27, or 21 7 times, and 4 can go into 8 twice. So we have 7/2. Well, what is 7/2 really? It goes into that 3.5. So we're saying that she has 3.5 miles left to hike. That doesn't seem right. But what it says. Oh, she hiked along the trail. Yeah. Okay, no, that's saying she's gone 3, 2, and 5 8. That gets so, some of the keywords sometimes can throw you off. All right, so the total length of the trail is 3.5 miles. We got to check this now. So when I'm checking this, I'm going to replace my variable m with my 3.5. Okay, but because I know I'm going to have to multiply by the with the fractions, I'm going to put them as improper fractions. So I want to know, is 21/8 equal to 3/4 times my 7/2? Well, 3 times 7 makes 21, and 4 times 2 makes 8. That is correct. Okay. So that's where you want to make sure you're checking your work. It's easy to make mistakes, especially with word problems. Okay. All right, so homework for today is some word problems. Now, your first side, 1 through 4, we give you what do you need to let the variable represent. Then on the back side, you are coming up from 5 through 9. What does the variable represent? That normally means what's the question? What are you looking for? Because that's the unknown, and that's what a variable is. It represents an unknown value. Okay, so let's go ahead and do 5. I feel like the front side, since they gave you the variable, you could probably do those easier. But that leaves you with 8 problems left to finish. Okay, the self-guided Mammoth Cave Discovery Tour included an elevation change. I remember elevation is the distance from the ground of 140 feet. This is 7/15 of the elevation change on the Wild Cave Tour. So right there was 2 important information. Okay. Write and solve an equation to find the change in elevation. Okay, so that's what our variable represents. Change in elevation. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So what's some key words we know? Okay. Well, let's see. The elevation change right there. This is 7. But then this is up. This was the elevation change. This is where it went from. Okay. So that's what we actually want to equal. So always start with your equation first. We know we want to equal 140. This is 7/15 of our elevation change. So that's what we're trying to find. So make sure you leave your room off to the side for checking your work. Okay? I know if you're in Mrs. Oliver's class, I've talked about the 5 steps I should always see when you're solving an equation. Okay, so when I look at this one, I'm like, ooh, it's multiplication. But I'm multiplying with a fraction. So dividing by a fraction is really multiplying by its reciprocal. So that's where you're going to want to multiply by your reciprocal. Okay, so 15/7 is what we're multiplying on both sides. And remember, 1 always goes under every whole number. But a lot of you do not want to cross cancel. But do you really want to take 140 times 15? That's a lot. And then divide the answer by 7? So what we really actually want to do is cross cancel. 7 can go into 140 20 times. So then all we really got to do is take 20 times 15. All right, well, that gives me 0. And then 2 times 5 is 10. 2, 3. So we're at 300. Okay, so we are saying that E equals 300 feet. Yes. Okay, and if you even want where it says let it equal, you can put down here E equals 300 feet. Then it's right by your what you're letting it represent. But then you're going to check your answer. Okay, that's important too. Got to check your answer. What you want to know is 7/15 times 300 that is equal 140. Well, I can cross cancel. I know 15 can go into 300 20 times. So then 7 times 20 equals 140, which is exactly what we're trying to equal on the other side. Okay? This is not an assignment to rush through. Yes, it's only 8 problems, but you have a lot of work to do for those 8 problems. So you need to take your time, make sure you're reading through and know about your key words. Okay? Remember addition, less than. Okay, addition means that you want more of something. Less than means a subtraction problem. You're taking it away, you're decreasing. Division is you're splitting, you're dividing it amongst you and your friends. Multiplication of per hour normally is going to be if they don't give you how many hours you're going to multiply. If you're repeatedly doing something, you're going to multiply. So make sure you're looking for those keywords and know which operation you need to do.